What are you... Oh. People are that way. People are that way. That way. That way. No, that way. That way. Oh, do I need to go and stand this side? Is that the problem? Like that. Right, come on. Where's the firmware upgrade, Sony? Come on. No, not you. And cast your minds back like 12, 18 months ago maybe, Sony released, I think it was the A6600, which introduced real-time IAF tracking in video. Prior to that, IAF was only available in stills, or in video, you got face detect autofocus. Now, around that same sort of time, we saw some firmware updates for the full-frame cameras. We had version 3 for the A7 III and the R3, and we got version 5 for the A9. Now, these added quite a few different autofocus features and improvements. I think that was when we first saw you could select IAF for either humans or animals. And we also got that the IAF didn't need its own dedicated button now that you had to kind of press to access. It was just on whenever it detected an eye, and several other improvements as well. However, there was no video IAF, and the official standpoint from Sony at the time was that it wasn't possible to add IAF into video on those cameras because of the processing unit that they used wasn't compatible with it, that the A6600 was using a different processing unit. However, fast forward to like a week ago and Sony released the A7C. Now that camera has received quite a lot of criticism, some of it from me. I mean, it's not a bad camera, to be fair. It's more video focused than the A7 III, and it would work really well as, you know, maybe like a second camera for some people, or, you know, people who did want a more video focused camera. It works for different people, but it's the price point. For the price that they're asking is basically the same price as the A7 III, except it loses a load of features, but doesn't replace them all with other features. So it seems like you're paying a lot more for a lot less. But anyway, all that aside, from everything that I've seen of the A7C, it seems to be all recycled parts from the A7 III. Same sensor, same screen, and more importantly, same processor. However, the A7C has IAF tracking in video. So has Sony almost shot themselves in the foot and basically shown that actually the processing unit in the A7 III and the R3 were perfectly capable of taking movie IAF, and they just intentionally decided not to include it? Or is it that the A7C actually uses a different processor, or at least a revised processor to the A7 III? Who knows? Like I said, everything that I've seen so far, different sources all say that the processor in the C is the exact same one that's in the 3, which would make sense because the C essentially seems to be recycling the old parts of the 3 rather than spending money to create new parts. So it seems like Sony have intentionally withheld the addition of movie IAF into the 3 and the R3, and probably the A9 as well, not actually because of hardware limitations as they suggest, but more just for marketing leverage. I mean, to be fair, at the end of the day, it's not surprising that they'd have done that. It's business. You know, they're in the market for making money. So I'm not going to begrudge them for not giving me a load of additional features for free in a camera that I've already bought. Because if they just gave away all those features for free, then whenever they release a new model, there's not enough of an improvement over the new model to justify buying it, and then they're going to end up losing money. So I don't begrudge Sony for not including the features. What I do dislike is the fact that they try to swerve us with the, oh, it's hardware limit. The cameras just aren't capable of doing it. We would if we could, but the cameras just aren't capable of it. Well, it seems that, well, they've not even been caught with the trousers down. They've essentially just pulled their own trousers down in public to show everyone, actually, the hardware within the A7 III was probably more than capable of movie IAF. We just decided to lie about it. Which, like I said, I'm not going to necessarily begrudge them for not giving out free new features on old cameras versus trying to incentivize people to upgrade to new cameras. But what does seem strange is that they bother to release a firmware update at all to improve any of the autofocus aspects or add additional features like the continuous autofocus in stills or the selection between human or animal eye detect. Like, why would they bring out a firmware update just for those and then say, actually, we're going to hold off the movie IAF? Especially given the fact that of the three cameras that saw the updates, the A7 III, the R3, and the A9. Well, both the R3 and the A9 are more stills-focused cameras than general hybrids, whereas the A7 III is the general hybrid camera that most people would opt for. If they were looking for a camera for shooting video, the 3 is the one they would predominantly pick. Except the 2 of those 3 cameras that have been replaced, the A9 Mark II and the A7R4, which are, again, predominantly the stills cameras. So why even bother with the firmware updates at all, especially given that the A9 Mark II was a bit of a drab upgrade over the A9. It didn't really change all that much, which would have probably been a little bit different if they could have turned around and said, oh yeah, the A9 Mark II now has animal IAF and continuous IAF tracking that the A9 doesn't. So they've almost double shot themselves in the foot there. Who knows? Anyway, at least we do now know, or we're pretty sure, that the A7 III could actually take movie IAF. It's just being withheld from us, but it means that it definitely going to be seen in the A7 IV. So that pretty much wraps it up for this video, guys. As always, if you have any questions or queries, comment box is down below. While you're down there, if you enjoyed this video or you found it helpful, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button, and also consider checking out my Patreon account down there as well. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.